magic trick right here. Disappearing box. What's up, Video Fort Nation? I'm Magic Bard, and for today we're gonna go through a movie magic trick effect, cool little trick effect, kind of like a Zach King style type video. So with that being said, I want to jump into some shout outs to Bazooka and Planet Zane. Appreciate the love, guys. Thanks a lot. And while we're on the subject of throwing out some shout outs, I am wearing my Emmy shirt today because my mom just got nominated for an Emmy and she'll be hearing about it this weekend. So big congrats to my mom. Hope she wins. It's for the makeup category for doing makeup on Dancing with the Stars. If you guys watch that show, you'll probably see her in the behind the scenes on the show. It's really cool. So with that being said, if you're new to Video Fort, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell icon right next to it, so that way you'll be notified every time we put out a new tutorial every single week. All right, guys, let's jump into it. Okay, guys, so first, let me show you how I shot this. So this is what it looks like without any effects on it yet. Okay, no masking, no nothing. You can kind of see how I picked up the box and was very careful not to put my thumb or hand or anything on top of the box. That way, you know, if you do that, you're going to have to mask out your hand and it just becomes a big mess. So when shooting this, just be very careful on everything you do. Now watch the way I pick up the box and then throw it over to my right. Okay, I try not to show the bottom of the box as I pick it up. That's why I kind of go slow with it, right? And then throw it over and it lands flatly right there on the ground. So let me just kind of show you that in slower motion. So as this is going up, okay, this is a very important part. You don't want to see the other side of the box, and you certainly don't want to see through the box, because then you're going to have to deal with a lot of intense masking issues, and this effect will end up taking you longer than expected. So key to this effect is shooting it, because if you can shoot this one perfectly, you won't have to do a lot of post-production, right? So once you get the box off, you throw it, get out of the way, and then what you're going to do is kind of take up the least amount of space as possible. So that's why I'm getting down here. And as you pick up the box, try to slide your hand in there, and don't pick it up by putting your hand on top of it or your thumb or anything, because then you'll have to mask it out, right? So you want to pick it up and then slide it over and get the box perpendicular to the camera. Okay, so once again, the camera cannot see through the box. It is seeing the side of the box. So that way, when you mask it, all you have to do is just mask this side right here. And then you can see that you'll get yourself coming out. And then to add more effect, you should probably pick up the box. And then if you walk out like that, then you can do a little looping segment, because then you walk back in, do it again, and it can just keep looping and looping and looping, and that's also a pretty cool part of it. So that's how you shoot it. All right, now let's jump into the sequence and see kind of how I edited this one. So let's see, hopefully that's not off screen. Let's jump into it. So it's fairly straightforward, okay? Now, what I recommend before doing this tutorial, I know you're kind of already into it, but I would check out the other Zach King tutorials, magic trick tutorials that I've done here on Video Fort. There's one where I'm jumping into, or my friend is jumping into a moving car, and there's another one where I am dodging a moving car. Watch those, try those effects out before doing this one, and this one will make a lot more sense and be fairly straightforward, because they all kind of play in the same way of creating these effects, which is paying attention to detail when it comes to masking. So let's check it out. So we're going to have our background plate, okay? Because every time you do these effects, you need a background plate. And what that is just a plate of me, not me, not the box, nothing, just your background, okay? So what makes this effect easy is if you're doing it inside, you don't have to worry about trees or wind or, you know, moving objects and that kind of stuff, because this is just a freeze frame, okay? So if you are working outside, you cannot use a freeze frame. You're gonna want to use a background plate that is video. So just make sure that you record a long enough segment. You can see that mine is about, you know, over 40 seconds long, and you want to make sure you get that. So we have the background plate. Then on top of that is the shot of me coming into the box, and right before I start to pick it up, that's when we start getting into the intense action stuff. And when I say that, what I mean is masking and that sort of stuff. So let's check out what we did here. My biggest layer, and the one that's going to take up the most time, is going to be this whole picking up the box and doing the whole masking. So as you can see, I have several masks, and what they are accomplishing here is subtracting me, and then I have a few other masks that are subtracting shadows and that kind of stuff. So if you want to spend less time in post-production, what I would do is make sure when you're shooting this, there aren't a lot of shadows outside. So cloudy days are the best, sunny days are going to give you hell. So just make sure you keep that in mind when shooting this. Okay, and then as you can see, this is literally frame by frame. This took me about 8 hours to do all of these masks and finish this effect up. So you can see it's essentially a simple effect because there really isn't much going on, but it is very time consuming in terms of you want to do frame by frame editing. Okay, so I'm gonna open this up so I can show you the masks and the keyframes that I have here. You want to do frame by frame editing to make sure that you can get this as perfect as possible. Okay, so I'll just break this down. I have the mask 3, and that's here. The mask 1, which is my main mask. This is this one right here, which is subtracting my body out of the composition. Okay, and you can see how it grows and does that. And you can see that all of my masks are subtraction masks, except for this pink one right here, which is an add mask. Okay, so basically what this add mask does is I can see this part of the video, and the whole reason why I want to do that is because there is this small, very subtle shadow here, and you can see it right here as I start to move the box up and move down, and I want to keep that in the scene because it just adds a little bit of realism to it, right? So I don't want to delete that part, even though almost literally everything else, as you can see here, this green mask right here is a subtraction mask. This orange one right here is all subtraction, okay? And then the pink one right here is also subtraction. I just kept this add right here so I can see the shadow, okay? Now, right as I create this fast movement of me throwing the box off, you can see that this add mask, what I do to get rid of it, okay, now there's a few ways to get rid of a mask. You can take it, you can drag it off screen, and that'll get rid of it, right? Now, I didn't want to do that because I didn't want an abrupt cut of the mask just going away. So what I did was, let's see if I can open this up. I turned the mask expansion down, okay, and just keyframed it, and basically what that does is it shrinks the mask, and you can sort of see that into oblivion, okay, and it kind of dies off. Now, sure, yes, this is noticeable, but it's not later on when we start to add some camera movement, and that will be the last part of this whole tutorial. So that is a way to get rid of these masks, and just make sure that you feather them, okay? Because if you don't feather them, you're gonna have a harsh line and it's gonna be really easy to see, right? So mask number 1 that you create is going to be your main mask that deletes your body, right? And does the really does the whole part of the effect, all the deleting and stuff. Mask 2 is just basically it's a stationary mask. As you can see, it just stays off of here over to the right and kind of deletes everything, so I can see this background layer down here. Okay, so what mask 2 does is it keeps this beam bright, okay, because if I don't have it, if I don't have this orange mask, you can see the color of the beam. See how it's darker right now? So what I need to do is create that subtraction mask so that the beam stays the same color the whole time. Then I don't have to worry about colors changing, and then when someone sees the effect, it really draws their eyes off of me moving the box, and they start to see all these colors shifting all over the place. So, and also I don't have to deal with doing any type of color correction. As long as I can keep that beam the same color, I'm good. Okay, so we're good there. And then let's see what okay, mask 3 is our add, and then I have the shadow destroyer, as I call it, which is this green mask. Okay, now what this one is, this is also an important one, right? So what we're gonna do on this one is, this is just a larger mask that I put an intense feather on. Okay, so I did a little 60 pixel feather right here because this pink line was a very harsh and straight line, and I had to do that because it comes very close to the box right here, so I can't really put a big feather on it. You can see I did a little maybe a 10 pixel feather, I think, on that. So what happens here is I also have a 10 pixel feather right here, but you could really see that line. So what I had to do was create this green shadow destroyer, as I call it, which is an intense 60 pixel feather. Okay, that'll get rid of your harsh lines. So that's really the main part of this effect, is mixing and matching masks. Okay, and you do that by, if you have a harsh line, a straight line that's kind of showing your effect off and you don't want that, just create another mask, keyframe it, and turn up the feathering on it, so that way it's harder for someone to see what's going on. Now let me show you what it looks like without this green mask on. So you see this line right here? That's what happens when you don't have a shadow destroyer mask. Okay, and you can see a line moving. Now my video, there it is, you see it starts to get really noticeable up top up here. Now if this is playing in real time, there it is again, you'll really see this. It becomes noticeable and it takes your eyes off of the effect, which is not what we want. So we add these little shadow destroyer masks that hopefully get rid of that line. Okay, now you don't see it. So that's the point of those. And now this, let's see, where is this one? Okay, and this mask 4 right here is just another one that I added to subtract, more subtraction, right? So you can see that I move masks around, and just to make sure I get everything perfect, and then I move them all off screen right there at the very end. Okay, which is fairly self-explanatory. Now, like I said before, if you've seen the other Zach King tutorials, this is essentially the same thing we've done on those, except this is a little more advanced because you're going to have to spend a lot of time deleting all of these shadows that you may or may not have. Okay, now what are these two green layers, you ask? The first one is what I like to call a fade in. Okay, so let me just show you what's happening here. It's a freeze frame, okay, and if I solo it, you can see that it's just a freeze frame of me standing here, and then I slowly fade it out. Okay, now I call it a fade in because it starts at the beginning of our animation or visual effects clip, and what's happening here is the whole reason why I have this is for this beam. Okay, so it's kind of discolored here. We have a darker part down here, a brighter part up here, and without this fade in part, it really messes up the effect. Now let me show you why. So if I just turn it off, turn the visibility off, you're going to have this bright kind of click come in right as the effect starts. Okay, you see that little click right there? Now that is, of course, very noticeable, and the whole reason why it's clicking like that is because all these masks come into place on our animation clip. So I guess I should just call this right now the Magic Bard masking. Okay, so to get rid of any type of clicking like that, where stuff just kind of pops on, create a little fade in. So all you really have to do, and what you can see what I did, was I took this clip, I duplicated it. Okay, so I just Command D, and then I right clicked and went to time and freeze frame, and so that will create a freeze frame, and you don't need any of the masks, so you can just delete all of them. And then what you're gonna have is just your shot right here, and really what you're looking at is that beam, so you want that beam in there. And I'm just gonna delete this for now. And then you can see all I did was put it under. Okay, so put this under your masks, so then that way, let me turn it back on, visibility. That way there is no more click, and it just fades in. Now if you keep your eyes on this beam right here, keep your eyes on this beam, you could see the fade in slowly happen. Okay, now it kind of actually works pretty well, because as I'm going down to pick up the box, that's when this fades into a brighter color, which makes sense. I mean, it could be that my shadow is hitting the beam, and then as I bend down, my shadow no longer touches the beam. So, you know, visually that could make sense, and it does, and not a lot. I mean, most people don't even see that part. And then once we have the camera shake in motion, that will go away. So this part over here is another sort of the same situation that I had with the fade in, but I call this one our fade out. Okay, so this is the whole point of these masks, is to try to keep everything like the background plate layer. Okay, so the I call this one the fade out, and you can see that this mask is really just, and let me just open it up so I can show you that the feathering is real intense. We have 100 pixel feather here, so that way you just don't see this line at all, right? And there you go, you know, you can't even see where the mask is. So if we are showing our background layer as much as possible during this clip, then we don't have to worry about fade ins, fade outs, and that sort of stuff. Now what this is you can see right here, it's another freeze frame. Now if I just solo this and then turn off my mask, you can see that the freeze frame is just right here. It's just me right before I turn all of the masks off. Okay, now let me just show you that. So I'm gonna open up these masks, and you can see that that's about the end of when all these masks kind of jump off screen, and we no longer need them, right? Because I'm about out of the box at that point. So you can kind of see how this effect is all really built on masks, and that's really it, right? Sometimes people add color correction and that kind of stuff. I try to avoid that just because I like to keyframe mask and try to get it as perfect as possible. So you can see how this is really our background plate, and it kind of morphs into that last frame when I start to get out of the box. Okay, so I'll just close this down for now, and then guys, that's really the effect, because at the end we no longer have any of these masks active. Okay, so you can see it fades out right here. Over here all of them are essentially done with, and what we're really looking at is only this clip as I walk out, and then we loop it by coming back into the frame and doing it once again. Once you are finished, okay, creating your effect, what you're going to do is start to add some camera shake, also known as wiggle, and zooms and position moving and that kind of stuff. So you can see that right here. I have our clip, okay, which is the composition. So really all you have to do is just take your comp, drag it into a new composition like that, and boom, that's how you pre-compose your composition. So that's that right here. Then I added two null objects, okay? One of them I called the movement null, the other is the wiggle null. And then what I did was I connected the composition to the movement null, and then I connected the movement null to the wiggle null. Okay, now all you have to do for the wiggle null is make sure it's selected, hit P, and then option click on your stopwatch right here, and then what's going to happen is it's going to open up this expression position, and that way you can type in an expression. So you can see right here I typed in wiggle parentheses 1 comma 20 and then end parentheses. Now what that means is 1 times a second the position will wiggle 20 pixels. Okay, and then press enter, and then that way you're going to have this small little camera wiggle on your footage. So that's why you can see this little wiggle. Now the movement null, if I press U, I could show you those keyframes. All I did there was keyframe the position and scale and move the camera around where I thought it may be if someone was holding it, right? So sometimes I would zoom in, I would move it left and right, up, and then do those little zoom outs as you can see, and then as the box goes down, move it down as well. Okay, and what that does is it keeps your eyes, what you really want to do is keep the movement on the box, so then that way no one's eyes are drifting around and seeing any of the masking that you have done all over the place. You really want to keep their eyes on the illusion, which is that you have a magical box. Okay, and then guys, that is it. That's the effect. Just make sure the end is the same position as the beginning, so that way you can loop it when you upload it to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, what have you. And guys, that is the effect. That is the magic trick, magic box, Zach King effect. I don't know, I call it a Zach King effect. I don't know if he actually did a magic box like this, but a lot of the effects he does utilizes the techniques that we did in this tutorial as well, which is highly detailed, attention to detail masking. Okay, so masking things out, masking things in, like the shadows over here, and then of course the masking this freeze frame comp into there as well, which is really, I don't know if I explained that this last one, the fade out, this mask, the 100 pixel feather is really to get rid of any harsh lines that are coming from this one and this mask right here. Okay, so we have masks to subtract things we don't want the audience to see, and then we also have masks to hide harsh lines that other masks are creating. It sounds counterintuitive, but this is a great way to learn After Effects and get your masking down as well. Really quick tip, there is a way that you can feather masks by their own, and that's by using the mask feather tool. Now I didn't do any of that because it becomes really time consuming to not only just move points around but also control a feather. So I'll just leave that to a different tutorial, but just so you guys know, you can feather your masks with the mask feather tool as well. So guys, hope you enjoyed it. Hope this helps out. I'd love to see what you guys end up doing. I know that a few of you have been tagging me on Instagram and showing me your effects. I love it. A lot of really cool stuff out there. Appreciate that you guys are actually getting some stuff out of these tutorials. And that's it for now. Alright guys, so I hope that tutorial helped you out, and if it did, please leave us a like and let us know in the comment section if there's any type of visual effects you guys would like to know more about. With that being said, this is Video For It, I'm Magic Bard, and I'll see you guys on the next one.